Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and this amazing Svelte series. I'm Aditya. In this video, we are going to see the concept of loops. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so in Svelte, we have the concept of loops, which you could call it as blocks or logic. Now what are these? So we can use if conditions or if block to do conditional rendering. We could use each block to do list rendering, and we could use await block to do like a promise rendering, or if we want to if we have a promise with the JavaScript promise, and if we want to resolve that, if we want to see its await, and like let's say we want to show its kind of state when it's resolving and after it's resolved, so we can use await block for that. Now in documentation, these blocks are given one after the other. So let's start with the if block, where we have an expression, and whenever that expression is true, whatever is inside that if block, mostly it's going to be HTML, so that HTML will be rendered. Now let's take an example. Here we have a simple counter. When we increment a number, it increments by 1, decrement by 1. Now let's say we want to hide this when the count, or let's say we want to hide this plus button. Actually, that would be great if our count goes beyond 10. So we don't want the user to have this incremented beyond 10. So here we could have a if block which has a syntax of something like this. So curly brackets, hashtag, then if, then here we will have an expression. So in this case, count less than 10. So as long as count is less than 10, we want to show this add button. If it goes beyond 10, we want to hide that add button or the plus button. And then we can end this by putting / if. If we go back again over here, let's try it out. 4, 9, and here we go. That plus button has gone, like it's totally disappeared. Let's see where did it went from our DOM element. Now, if we see inside our app over here, let's say over here, you will see that button or that HTML has totally gone from our DOM. I press minus, you will see it comes back again over here. So that's great. Now we can also do if, else if, and else. So we can have an if else ladder. So how to do that? Well, let's take example again. Now let's say whenever the count is below 5, we want to give h5, above 5, let's say h3, and beyond, like let's say beyond 10, we want to do h1. And so for that we need to remove this actually, so that we can keep on incrementing the count. So we just want to have different h1 h tags, actually h1, h5, h3, and h1 tags depending on the count. So we could do something like this. First we have our if block. Here we say if count less than 5, then here we could have this count rendered in h5. Then we say else if, oops, sorry for that, it should be like this, else if count is greater than 5. Now these conditions are typical JavaScript conditions, so we could use JavaScript operators as well, like this. And less than 10, we show h3. Oops, sorry. And here we say count again. And if the count goes beyond 10, so this would be like else part, then in that case we show h1 tag. And at the end we need to end this if block, so we just put / if, so that it shows that this if block is only like has its scope till here. Now let's give it a try. So for this we need to, like we can see from the size of that text, so let's go 1 2 3 4 5, and there we go, it became h5, and then again h10, sorry, not h10, h1. So let's see what's happening behind the scene. So if you notice that it has, so I guess I missed one condition, so here it should be, I need to consider equal to as well. So it also considers for 5. Now if we check it again through DOM, now here if we inspect this part, so if you notice over here, currently it's h5, so 1 2 3 4 5, and now we have h3. because that's what we want. When the count reaches 5 and it's less than 10, we want h3. Now 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When it goes 10 and above, we want h1. So that's great. So this is how you could use if else block or if else ladder of block. So this was for conditional rendering. But what if we want to do list rendering? In this case, we have list of users. Now we want to render them as a list one after the other, because mostly when you're dealing with API, you're going to get an array from your server, and then you want to render that items one after the other or in cards. Doesn't matter, but we just want to do kind of like a list rendering. So how can we do it? Well, let's take another div over here, and inside this, let's take a UL tag, and here we can do list rendering with the li tag. Now here I could say hashtag each. Now here we want to iterate over this users, so I'm going to say each users as user, and then I can just end that each block like this, and here I just need to put li tag, and here I can print the user. So let's see what do we get. So if we go back over here, you will see we are getting those users over here, one after the other. Now, if we want the index of that item or that element in that array, we could have something like this, user comma index, and then here we could print index like this, index. Now this will start from, let's see where it starts from. So for now, we'll just put it like this. Now here you'll see it starts from 0. So if we want it from, let's say 1, so we just add 1, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and the names. Now to have a proper DOM diffing, or whenever, because if you are coming from React or Vue, you have seen there we pass a key property. So to have that proper DOM diffing, we need to pass a key attribute just to make sure that whenever there's a list rendering and whenever there's a change to the data, everything happens properly. So for that, we can have key passed inside this round bracket. Now this key needs to be a unique key. Now in this case, the unique key could be user's ID. If this was an object, let's say this was, instead of array, this was something like this, like users, let's say it was something like this, ID1, name Aditya, and ID2, name Adi, and so on. So in that case, we could target the ID, but in this case, as we just have array, let's try to target with index. So here we can pass that index as a key, and it should be fine. So if we check it again, you will see everything works fine. Now, this was for each block when we have data. So, but what if we don't have any data? Let's say sometimes you may not have list of users, and at that time you want to show a default message. Let's say no users are available, something like that. We can combine each block with else block. So we could say something like this, else, sorry for that. And here we could say if there are no users, we just print the message no users. Now let's give it a try. So let's go back over here again. Let's make this as an empty array so that we can see the difference. And if we go back here, we say no users. So it's like, it's kind of like useful when to have a fallback when you have no items or no data in your server or in your database, and you want to show something as a message, let's say no data available or no products available, something like that. So you can combine each with else block. Now let's go to the next one, which is await block. Now to show await block or see this in action, let me introduce another concept here, which is lazy loading a component. Now, so far, so if you notice here, we are loading components eagerly. So if we have to create a final bundle, this will all become as a one bundle, and then it will increase the bundle size. But we can kind of improve this performance, or we can have it lazy loaded so that the bundle size could be reduced. So let's lazy load a component here. So here I'm going to say, let's say we want to bring in the title tag, and we want to bring that over here. Or let's say we just bring it somewhere here so that we can see awake like properly in action. So here I'm going to say const title promise, because this title component here, as we are going to do lazy loading, first it's going to return a promise and then we have to resolve it as a promise. So here we could say import, and that's going to come from title.svelte. Now it's not necessary you have to use await block only for something like components. You can use it for Axios requests or fetch API requests. So you can use for that as well. So that's not a problem. Now here let's take another div, and here we have await block. So here we say await, and what we want to await for? We want to await for this title promise to resolve. So let's put that title promise here, title promise. And here we could use the pending block. So if I go to the documentation over here, you will see we have then, and then we have catch. So if you want to catch any errors, so we can put those errors over here if there are any error. But in case if we want to just wait till the promise resolves, so we can put that pending over here. So here we could say between this block we could put a span tag loading da, 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 and span again, and here we put then we will get the title component, and here we end our await. So we could say await ended over here and here. Now if we want to load this component, we want to target its default, as it's a default export, so we just want to get the default module of it. And then this is a title content. It's great. Now let's give it a try. So if we go over here, we can see this is a title content. Okay, let's try this await on this API by CoinDesk, where we get Bitcoin prices for USD, GBP, and Euro. So for that, let's create a function first. So here we could say async function, get rates, and then here we need to do response equal to await fetch, and then the URL. So let me just copy the URL from here and paste it over here, and then we will have data equal to await response.json, and then we say if response has status of 200, then we just return data. Right, now let's give this a try. So here instead of title promise we say get rates, because that's our asynchronous function, and remember asynchronous function always returns a promise. Still it loads, we have that over here. Afterwards we are going to get a data out of that. So whatever data we get from that data, we need to look for BPI, USD, and so let's try with sorry, here data.bpi.usd, so USD, and then we have rate flow. Right, let's give this a try. So if we go back over here, you'll see we are getting the rate. But if we refresh this now, and now if we see this on fast 3G, you'll see okay, it's getting instantly loaded. So let's make it on slow 3G so we can see the loading over here. Okay, there we go. We have this loading, and then we have that price coming up. That's all in this video. So in the next video, we will see the concept of events and how we can create custom events as well and dispatch those custom events. So see you in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.